Hi there.
Hi, everyone. Elizabeth and I are now in Tunisia. I had to leave. I had to leave Brazil because my visa was up. I can only stay in Brazil for about. Sorry, we have the beautiful sun in our eyes. I can only stay in Brazil for 6 months at a time until we were married. So we're not married yet, and therefore I had to leave Brazil. Not something we necessarily wanted to do, but something we have to do because we can only stay in. I can only stay in Brazil for 6 months. So we decided to come to Tunisia. We have a family friend here, but we are not outside jail. We are currently in quarantine for 10 days. So it was a really difficult situation, right? We didn't actually know that we had to stay in quarantine. We were in the airport, and we originally booked somewhere else, and at the airport, we found out that we had to. They said when you travel from country to country now, you often have to fill out these health questionnaires, and these health questionnaires provide you with a QR code. So we were checking in to our first flight from Rio de Janeiro to Charles de Gaulle, and then from Charles de Gaulle, we got a flight to Tunisia. So we were checking in Rio de Janeiro, and he's like, "Where's do you have your QR code?" And we said, "Well, Air France, which is the flight we were flying, didn't provide us. Normally, the flights before your trip." They provide you with all the information you need. So they provide you with a link where you can fill out your QR code. Or when you're in line at the airport, there's an attendant there and they will say, "Oh, you need a QR code. You have to fill out this health questionnaire." And then they will provide you with the URL that you go to while you're in line to check in. They didn't do that this time. So Air France was much different than a lot of the other airlines that we had flown the past couple months. The past couple months, we'd flown airlines, and they either provided us with the link beforehand, or while we were in the check-in line, they provided us with the link in the check-in line and asked us to fill it out right then and there. So even the individual who we spoke with at the check-in counter didn't know the URL. So we were able to check in. Oh, and Brazilians apparently need a return ticket, but thankfully Elizabeth and I, we travel around and we kind of give speeches and we distribute our books. So we had a reason for not having a return ticket. But most Brazilians who are traveling apparently need a return ticket unless you have a reason like we do, where we travel from country to country as we kind of are doing now. So yeah, so we got through the check-in. We were able to check in. Elizabeth, we have an onward ticket. So it was not like we were able to show him our onward ticket. We have a ticket from Tunisia to Croatia in a little over a month, or more than a month. So yeah, we checked in, and then we went online and searched for this QR code because Air France didn't, we didn't know where we were supposed to fill out this health questionnaire form. So I did some searching, and thankfully the Irish, an Irish website, an Irish government website discussing Tunisia. You know how the United States Department of State has information on all countries in the world? Well, apparently the Irish government has something different. So one of the top Google results was the Irish, similar to the U.S. State Department. And so they provided us with a bunch of information. So they provided us with the health questionnaire link, and they provided us with a description of what we needed. And apparently we didn't know this because when we initially booked our ticket, this wasn't in effect. That's one of the reasons we chose Tunisia, along with having a family friend here. But we apparently the rules had changed, and they changed pretty quickly, and we apparently needed to quarantine. So in the airport, 20 minutes before our flight, we had to book a hotel, and we had to book 10 days, 10 days in the hotel. And in order to board the flight, so thankfully we did that. We booked 10 days in a hotel. And in order to board the flight from Charles de Gaulle, Paris, to Tunisia, we had to show them, the fact that we had booked 10 days in a hotel. We had to show them our PCR tests. We both had PCR tests, and they were both negative. And we had to show them the fact that we had the health questionnaire. So, I asked the guy, and they check that before you board the flight. They say, show me show me the 10-day stay that you have, and show me the QR code, and show me 3 bits of information along with your boarding pass. And so we were able to board the flight in Tunis. the customs was so that you enter Tunis, and then you enter the customs area where a lot of the customs officials weren't wearing masks, or they had their masks hanging by their face. One of the customs officials was smoking, right? Smoking in the customs area. So a bit strange. So some of the attendants didn't even have masks on. Some of the officials there didn't even have masks on. I'd say maybe 70% did, 30% either had their masks hanging like this or just didn't have masks at all. Maybe they had the vaccine. We're not fully vaccinated, so that's why we needed the PCR test, and that's also why we needed to show our 10-day quarantine. If we were fully vaccinated, we wouldn't have to show the 10-day quarantine. We wouldn't have to quarantine for 10 days in a hotel like we're doing now. Luckily, they put us in a nice place. We asked for a nice place, and we were very kind to them, and they were very kind to us. So we have a balcony, as you can see now. We have access to the sun, which is great, so we're getting vitamin D. So anyway, in the Tunisian customs area, we went through immigration area. Sorry, I'm talking about immigration now. Customs I'll get to in a second. So what I'm talking to with the people not wearing masks and the people smoking, that's immigration, not customs. Customs comes after immigration. So we were in the immigration area, and a lot of people crowding around. The culture here is very sort of French North African, and the people were really crowding us, even in the line. They were, over the announcement, they were asking people to stand like at least a meter apart, but the people behind us who spoke French and Arabic, and the people in front of us, a lot of people were, they were really crowding us out. So I had to put my bag kind of to the left of me just to kind of separate the guy, because the guy was almost in my face. So a lot of people not paying attention to distancing, the officials there not wearing masks. So anyway, we got to the immigration place, and she looked at our COVID test, or did she just look at our hotel? Yeah, she looked at our COVID test.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, at the immigration, she looked at both of our COVID tests, and we're like, okay, this is pretty easy. We got through immigration, we have our COVID tests, our passports are fine, they're up to date. We just walked through. Then we got our bags, and, we travel with quite a bit of equipment because we do a lot of traveling. We travel around a lot. So we first got stopped at, customs, and they didn't stop us and have us go through the red line, because obviously we're not bringing anything we shouldn't into the country. But he's like, you have quite a few bags. We don't have that many bags. We don't we're minimalist. We don't travel with that much. But we do have all of our belongings in these bags. So we have maybe one or two more, and we carry a lot of books with us, because we carry the Orvana socio-technical books with us. So we have one bag full of the Orvana socio-technical books, and then we have exercise equipment. So he's like, what are you carrying? You seem to be carrying a lot. And we, our reasoning was that, we travel with everything that we own, and we travel around, and we do give presentations, and, we talk to people, and we distribute the books. So he asked us if we had any camera equipment. And of course I have a camera that we video ourselves with, but we don't, professionally video anything else really, at least not at the present time. So he allowed us through the green line, which is what we were selecting and should be allowed through, because we don't have anything that we shouldn't be bringing into the country. But we were stopped before entering the actual country. So we were stopped before exiting customs. And they had people all dressed in almost hazmat suits, asking us. They weren't too happy that we weren't fully vaccinated. It was kind of like, okay, well, we're not too happy that you're coming into our country because you're not fully vaccinated, so you have to go to quarantine. Do you have your 10-day? So we spoke to some other people, and you really have to have that 10-day booking, and they will look at that 10-day booking. And we did have the 10-day booking, and so they directed us back into the immigration area. So we had to take our luggage, walk around back into the immigration area, and then we had to wait 2 hours for a shuttle. We waited maybe other people who arrived later, and then everybody was, because you then have to show them your passports and get signed off, and they write your name down. So everybody was crowded together, and it was completely disorganized, extremely disorganized. It could have been done much more professionally and efficiently and well organized. And everybody was crowding around the little area where two people were taking your passport and writing down your name and your information, what hotel you were staying at. And some of the transitors, the people like us who were in transit to the quarantine hotels, some of them had their masks here, some of them had their masks here. they all pretty much had masks, but they weren't wearing them effectively or appropriately. And we were all like crowded around trying to get our passports first. Because I don't know if you know anything about these cultures, but they're kind of like, they're cultures where you need to like kind of push your way forward in order to get, to get the service, or, you kind of need to force your way in to get service. Otherwise, other people will force their way in. So everybody was crowded around. So anyway, 2 hour waiting. Then we got our, we got our names and passports registered. And then we got the shuttle to the hotel that we're staying at. And so, this was all completely unexpected because we thought partially we selected Tunisia because we didn't think we would need to quarantine. So then we got here, and then I had to sign a contract stating that we'd stay in the hotel room for at least 7 days, and then we can go and get the PCR test. And if the PCR test comes back negative, as we expect it will be, because we don't feel anything even 24 hours after arriving. Then we can, after 7 days, the PCR test, which will come back that same day. Typically, PCR tests take 24 hours, but apparently, you can do it much more quickly if you have a lab that's, processing the data rapidly. It'll come back the same day, so we'll be able to leave if we want to after 7 days. Although it's a nice hotel we're at. And they had a selection of hotels that you have to stay at. We couldn't just stay at any hotel. We had to pick one from the list. So the 20 minutes we were, stopped in the airport, we had to pick one of the hotels from the list. And it was like, thankfully, we have a friend here. So we contacted the friend and asked him which hotel to stay at. And there are only 2 hotels actually in Tunis. All the other hotels are outside Tunis. So, he told us the hotel to stay at. It's a little bit more expensive than the normal Airbnbs that we stay at. Well, it's more expensive than the Airbnbs prices we typically pay. So we're paying a bit more right now. Most of the people who were having to quarantine, although I have to say most of the people who came in did not have to come to quarantine. So most of the people who entered the country actually must have had their vaccines, because the number of travelers traversing through customs and immigration, actually getting into the country, versus those having to come back to immigration and wait for the shuttles, which are free, was minuscule. The number of people having to quarantine like us was minuscule in compared to the number of people who could just enter the country. So a lot of travelers were fully vaccinated. Let's see what else. Nice hotel. Nice to be here in Tunis with Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's nice here. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really
Ocean
beautiful.
View here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice here.
Yeah. The food here is okay. I mean, you can stop the video now if you're not interested in like my personal. I don't eat in a lot of restaurants. I'm actually allergic to gluten, and I tend to avoid most restaurants because I react to gluten. I get distal edema, which means my hands and my face swell, like they sort of are now. They are swollen now when I eat any gluten. So I do my best to avoid restaurants. Well, it's very difficult in most restaurants to be completely gluten free. If they're using the fryer, or if it's a pizza restaurant and they have flour, like wheat flour, the wheat flour just goes everywhere. And so we don't eat in a lot of restaurants. I mean, we really like cooking. Elizabeth cooks very well. I cook pretty well. And the food's obviously cheaper when we purchase it, and we can save it. Thankfully, they put us in a room with a kitchen. Here in Tunisia, they speak French and Arabic. My French is, I need to change my LinkedIn profile because I haven't spoken French for like 20 years. So my French is very poor at the moment. And my Arabic is non-existent. I don't remember my Arabic lessons from years ago. My Portuguese is improving slowly.
Yeah.
So we get out probably in 7 days, and then we'll be somewhere else. Just a short video about our trip and kind of what travel's like at the moment. I know travel can be very difficult for a lot of people, especially quarantining. We asked for this nice room, but the other person who was traveling with us in the shuttle to this hotel, he was from Algeria, he picked a different room, or he spoke to the guy differently and they gave him a different room in a different area. We were very nice to the people at reception, and they gave us a very nice room. So yeah, I know. Luckily, we're not in an expensive place, and this isn't that expensive of a hotel. And we're in Tunisia, which is also less expensive. I've ever heard of people going to Iceland and having really bad hotel rooms, and then having to pay for food because we also have to pay for all the food that we're getting. We can't. We can't buy food. And I don't know what sort of delivery service they have here, but we asked reception, and he gave us the name of a delivery service for North Africa. And then we looked up that delivery service, but they don't have a lot of fresh food. It's mostly canned food, processed food, not great quality food. So that must be really difficult. A lot of the other hotels in the area that people had to quarantine with, that only one other was in Tunis. The others were outside of Tunis, some a distance away. Apparently not great places. The person in the shuttle who came here with us, last time he stayed in a different hotel, and he said he was just miserable. Last time he came from Algeria to Tunisia to Tunis, he had to quarantine for only 5 days. I think he said that was like, I don't know, a couple weeks back. And he said it was extremely unpleasant. No balcony, just in a small hotel room for a long period of time. A lot of people can't handle it. We both meditate, or we do our best to meditate, so we can handle things. We can handle kind of silence and isolation pretty easily, but a lot of people don't handle it very well. I guess that's one of the issues with lockdowns, right? Causes a lot of severe psychological issues. If you can't meditate or do some of the things we can do, which allow us to become a little bit more free inside of our own minds. So yeah, that's just a quick update. Hope things are well. Maybe provide an update on Oravana, in a little bit, but not in this video. See ya. Bye.